morning, Turfs Up Radio. Wayne Voles, Profits Unlimited, coming to you live, but a little bit late this morning from Louisville, Kentucky. Yes, indeedy. We got a great show planned for you on this hump day. Appreciate you guys hanging in there. I'm waiting a little bit for me this morning. I was got hung up this morning a few minutes. Was on a mission this morning, went out and we picked up a truck from TH Welding and Hydraulics in Bardstown this morning and just got back. So few minutes behind, but hey, that's okay. We got our truck, and I want to give a big shout out to that whole crew out there for getting us rocking and rolling and getting that F550 dump rolling for us. So we appreciate that. Had a little dump bed issue, but actually end up was an issue. It was an issue with our controller. So is what it ended up being, and then so anyway, we had a controller replaced on it, and also Timmy, my buddy, while he had it, he noticed our plug on the back was a little bit salt prohibitive from the winter, so he went ahead and switched out the trailer plug on the back for us while he had it. So anyways, hey, we're rocking and rolling. It's on its way to pick up a some sod, and going to be doing some sod today. So anyways, so that's what took me a few minutes to get a little bit behind. Traffic was pretty good both directions. So anyways, yeah, Mike, it's a great truck. We love it, and does a lot of work for us. It works very hard for WLS. It earns its pay. It earns its pay. We'll put it that away. So, but yeah, Mike, it's a truck. It gets the job done for us. And glad to have it back. I dropped it off out there, I don't know, week and a half or couple weeks ago, and told Timmy, I said, man, I don't, it ain't no rush on it. So about the end of the month would be good. And here we are. Look at him getting in there on what's the day, the 25th, I think. So get a little bit early on getting back to us. So we appreciate that. Appreciate that for the crew at TH Welding and Hydraulics out there in Bardstown. If you need somebody that understands hydraulics and can fix anything, they're your guys, man. Reach out to them, and gals. So they got a diverse group out there. So reach out to those guys. But anyways, and speaking of TH Welding and Hydraulics, I'll give Callie a big shout out. Her birthday was yesterday, I believe it was. And happy birthday, Callie. So in case you're listening to us, maybe if I be real nice before they send my bill to me, it won't be as rough. So no, but hey, I appreciate you guys listening. We got a great show planned today. Going to talk about several things that we're going to do fun today. Actually, some are it's bid season, right? I mean, it's bid season. I want to talk a little bit about some bidding, and I want to talk about some sad stories that I've heard from some people. And also we're going to make our first order of the day today, what we've tried to get in last Friday and Monday and didn't. So that's going to be our first order. And I know you guys have had time to think about it, and hopefully you guys send me some, we have some interaction in text on this particular topic that we're going to talk about. But hope your weather's good today. Ours is really good today. We've had good weather the first 3 days of the week, and looking forward to decent weather tomorrow. Might have a little bit of rain early on, but it's supposed to clear out of here. We'll get a better forecast from our buddies at BAM, but it's supposed to get out of here early tomorrow morning, like 8:30 or something, 9. So, and maybe not even that late. So, looks like we're going to have a good week. Hopefully you guys are having the same good week weather-wise where you're at, getting a lot done, because, it's kicked off pretty well for this part of the country. This region is rocking and rolling pretty steady. And still haven't had anybody call that for mowing that is telling us they can't find their kids and dogs in their yard. But grass is certainly growing, to say the least. And weeds, broadleaf weeds, broadleaf broadleaf weeds are growing, and but hey, we're about ready to get those taken care of. About ready to get those taken care of. We're creeping in on finishing up our granular pre-emerge and fertilizer, and looking forward to getting that broadleaf weed going. So got a few fires to put out with those, and we always say we got a fire list, right? So we'll take care of our fire list first, and make everybody happy. So that's the key, right? What can we do to make our customers happy and like us? And then sometimes, sometimes they're a little bit frustrated at first. You just know it comes with this industry in the beginning of the season, particularly as we're talking about fert and weed right now. But it's all right. We get caught up quickly, and it'll be okay. So, Mike gave me some good news. Yay, good deal, buddy. With Mike said he dropped a whole day of mowing this year to expand his fert and weed. So Katie's clapping for you, Mike. Yay! So, anyways, hey, that's a good choice. It really is a good choice. You know, I mean, the ratios are different for everybody, but it's generally a 6 or 7 to 1 ratio of what it takes to generate the same cash volume dollars. But profit dollars are not that far apart, from that ratio. So the profit margins are better, but it just takes a few more customers to get you to what a mowing customer brings. Because based on everybody's market, ours, for an example, I mean, we've got about a 37-week growing season here that we use, 37 to 40 weeks, depending. And, we have an 8 round system. So, all things considered, let's say, they're paying 60 to get their yard cut and they're paying 60 for a lawn application. That works into what, about a 6 to 1 or 5 to 1 ratio. So, for us, so meaning that takes 5 lawn application clients to generate the volume of 1 mow client potentially, but then it goes into what other services are they buying, and our fert and weed is more profitable than our mowing ever thought it could be, and that's because we understand our numbers. And for you guys that aren't 100% on your numbers, join us tonight in the Profit Circle at 7 p.m. We got a great webinar. I'm going to go over cost sheets and how determine what your true cost on labor are, and can you what's it look like if you want to try to add benefits? What's that going to do to your cost per hour of operation? Because a lot of times you say, well, man, I can't do that. I can't offer this or that to employees. I can't afford to do it. Well, we're going to show you how potentially maybe you can afford to do it when you look at the grand scheme of things as a portion of your business expense. And we're also going to talk about equipment cost, how to determine, hey, should I buy equipment? Should I buy a particular piece of equipment for a limited number of jobs, or does it make sense? So there's quick answers, and then there's the real answers that are out there. So we're going to talk about that tonight in the Profit Circle. Look at, as well as a lot of other things that we're going to go over in the Profit Circle tonight. So if you guys would like to join us, feel free to join us. You can get in, try it out, the Profit Circle. If you're not with us right now, we've had several new members get in with us lately, and we're happy for that. So we look forward to seeing everybody in there with us tonight. So if you'd like to join us, simply go to our website at profitsrs.com. That's profits, AREUS.com, and right there at the top, as soon as that comes up, you're going to see the Profit Circle link, and you can try it. Try it, and there's no restricted. While you're on your try before you buy, you can see this but not that, or do this and not that. It's 100% access, so you you get to see what it's really all about. So that's a good deal. So check that out. Look forward to seeing everybody tonight with that. So with that being said, I want to take a short break here real quick, and we will be right back in 2 shakes of a lamb to tell. Don't you go anywhere. I want to talk about, and I really don't know how to lead this other than just saying you know, it's a little frustrating sometimes. And I don't know, or it's frustrating to me. It may not be frustrating to you all. Okay. But the ghosting aspect from some people, and I'm not going to talk a long time about this. Okay. I'm not just not going to do it, but I just want to kind of get your all's opinion on it. Have you ever noticed that with a lot of people, and I know I'm generalizing a little bit with that, okay? When say have you ever noticed with a lot of people, what's a lot, right? But have you ever noticed that people that want to pretend to be one way are really completely different personality when you get them out of a particular realm of what the reality is. And I know that's not, I mean, I'm not being real clear with that, but it's kind of like, and I mean, I even hate to make this reference, okay, but I'm going to make it as a reference, okay, um, as a God fearing Christian, okay, it always amazes me that people in church are so nice and happy and happy go lucky, and this is just a reference, okay, but then when church is over and you walk out and it's time to get out of the parking lot, nobody will let you out of your parking spot. So that's my point I'm trying to make is in business, do you have those types of associations as well? You know, do people sometimes pretend to be one way, whether it's from a business owner's perspective or if it's from the client's perspective or whoever's perspective it is, you know, how do you feel with that? Do you feel like that happens to you? And hell, maybe it's happening in the church. I mean, that was just my reference, but I make that reference all the time. That you do you come out of church and everybody's your friend and smiling and it all's good, and then they don't want to let you out of your parking spot because for whatever reason, But that we just sit in there and professed, you know, about God and how Christian we are, and love your neighbor and all that, and I'm not making light of that being a Roman Catholic. Okay. I'm not making fun of church. I'm just saying that's a scenario that you can reference this to because that's the reality, and you reach out to somebody in business and they don't have the common courtesy to give you a call back, but I guarantee you they're the first person to go to church and sit in the front row and say hallelujah a lot of times, you know? So I don't know. I just think, we could as people and business owners, we really got to think about how we're treating our customers and responding to our customers because sometimes our customers don't think about how they respond to us, you know, and I don't know. Maybe it's just me, and I just wanted to get on that soapbox for about 4 minutes today, and I've done it, and I'm gonna move along. But I just think at this time of the year when things are frantic and or not frantic, is chaotic a better word? Probably a little bit chaotic with everybody kicking their businesses off and dealing with all the phone calls and trying to get the work done and the smaller your business is, the more complex that can be as a single operator, where you've got all those hats that you're wearing. I get it. I understand it. But just sit back and think about, hey, take a deep breath and see what you can do different and better than the way you did it the way before. Uh, uh, Mike, I appreciate that. Mike said he had a situation where he truly wanted to ghost the guy, but had the respect as a human, the human to tell him he wasn't a fit, and that's the way a lot of us do it as business owners in this industry. And that's why I say you can do it differently. You know, well, I'm not interested in that work. Somebody leaves you a they send you a text or they leave you a phone message or whatever, or they send a lead request through your website, however you're getting the leads, and it's for something that you're not interested in, you just act like you never got it. And that's not the professional thing to do. You know, treat everybody with respect, treat everybody professionally, and that will come back around to help you as a business owner. I can honestly say I don't ever remember anybody ever saying when they called us a second time, let's say, that says, hey, I called y'all back because the first time I called, I wanted, irrigation, or I wanted a fence put up, or I wanted, a tree cut down, or whatever it may be. And before we were more diversified, we had more and more of those. But the reality of it is, even if it's a service that you don't provide or you don't have a contractor to pass along to help somebody, the reality of it is give them the professional courtesy of a phone call back, and just, hey, if we can ever help you, let us know. This is what we do. So I think that goes a long way. Um, let's see what we got. I want to add, Mike said he wants to add to that comment he had earlier was, he wanted, the guy showed him no respect either. Showed up to give a bid on a landscape installation along with two other companies there at the same time. He did a walkthrough with everybody together. That kind of stinks, Daniel. I agree.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have done the walkthrough personally. You're a better man than me, Mike. I would have just said, hey, I appreciate the opportunity, but I'll give you a call and we'll reschedule. I'll let these other two, companies do a walkthrough with you. I mean, I don't want to give ideas and suggestions walking around with my competitor on things that may make that job a better job. Does that make sense? It's not that I don't want to help them or I don't want to, but
I think
because
it
then that
makes
opens the
sense.
door up to, them, that guy saying, well, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. As a consumer, though, I wouldn't do that. But I think there's some decent thought behind, like, all right, let's get everybody out here, see what they have to say. If they're gonna have differing opinions, they can they can explain their own opinions it, based on whatever information they have to me.
Yeah.
Now, like from a business perspective, I could see where it would be unwanted,
Right.
but from a consumer perspective,
I can see
I can
where
see
they
the
do it.
benefit to it.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I don't have to take off work 3 days. I can get three different people to come out here at once.
Right. And do one walkthrough.
Yeah.
And a lot of, there's a lot of commercial work where they do have a pre-bid meeting for contractors that are interested, but that's more to answer questions about the scope of the work.
Right.
But to do a walk around and want your opinion, Mike, I think that was a tough situation that the guy put you in. I mean,
Thinking about it from my perspective of a problem that I had recently of trying to figure out a plumbing situation,
yeah,
it would have been nice to get four different people out there at once.
to see what they had to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a think tank. There you go. It's like,
Also,
oh well,
yeah,
this person's saying it's the pan, this person's saying it's the tile, this person. Okay, so why do you think it's not that then? Why do you think we should do that? What do you think about? Like, what do you think that would solve the problem?
yeah.
Like I could see from a consumer
So
perspective
you
where
give you a little
it's almost
backside
like a
on
little
that.
bit of
Daniel was
project
having a
Google.
little water issue that he was trying to get resolved. So yeah, that's where that could be a good think tank situation. That that is it, Daniel. That's a really good point on that. So
And maybe this person felt like they don't know anything about the service that they're going to be getting. They don't want to be taken advantage of by somebody.
yeah,
I don't know. Like I
yeah.
said, I think from the business perspective, it makes sense why you wouldn't want that. But from a consumer end, it's like, oh, that sounds like a
It does
kind of a
make
good
good
idea.
sense, doesn't it? Yeah, I agree. It does. It does. So, anyways, I just wanted to get on that soapbox for a minute this morning, and then talk about that. And then we kind of got on that little tangent off of that, but just treat people with respect, whether it's a business associate, whether it's a client, whether it's client to business. It doesn't matter what it is. And, just treat people. Um,
Well, I think what at the core of what you're saying was hypocrisy, right? Like if you wouldn't want
yes.
to be treated, if you would want somebody to call you back, even if they didn't offer the service, just so you know you can move on from them, then that's what you should do for somebody else.
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it. Yeah. Don't be a hypocrite. So very well. I like that, Daniel. That was really good. That was really a good way of putting that. And that's the word I was trying to really think of, I guess, and bring a point. Mike said the other companies were treating it like a game of Hunger Games.
Right?
Oh my God.
I could see
I
that.
could see it absolutely, man. Just hey, what's your weapon of choice? Well, let's tell this guy about how bad you are, kind of thing. But anyways, hey, appreciate your input on that, Mike. And speaking of jobs and getting jobs, I want to talk a little bit now on. Hey, we did the walkthrough, we got the job. Now we need some people to do the job, right? Uh, would you guys rather? Here we go. This is what we've been trying to get to for a couple shows. Would you rather train somebody with zero experience or hire somebody who already knows the trade but has some bad habits? So, would you rather train somebody with zero experience? And this was on social media, I saw a while back. Okay. Or hire somebody that knows the trade but has some bad habits. What's your opinion on that? And for you guys that are watching this or listening to this, on a replay, I'd love to get your feedback there as well. But because initially when I saw this, Daniel, mine was, well, I'd rather get somebody with zero experience.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have bad habits, kind of like you can't teach an old dog new tricks.
And I think that's the missing component in a way is it's like an equation, right? For math, you need a certain amount of variables to solve for the missing variable. What the variable missing is, and I think what maybe the overarching answer to this problem might be, it's not would I rather have this type of person or that type of person with experience wise.
All right.
I think the answer is, or the other variable is, what's their attitude?
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's the only thing that matters, right? Because you're still going to be training. And if this person, if you say, well, I would only rather have people that have no experience than bad habits, well, what if everybody that comes to the door has no experience but a bad attitude, right?
Yeah.
But then there's five people you didn't hire because they had bad habits, but they had great attitudes and they're willing to learn.
Yeah. Mike says his opinion is still zero experience, is what he'd want to start with. And I guess it all depends on if they have an ego, to your point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they're willing to learn, then
Yeah.
it really doesn't matter either way because you're going to have to teach them either way.
Yeah. Corey said start with zero. Supervisors experience with bad habits, you know? So now, but here's what I want y'all to think about that answer. And Daniel, I agree 100% with you. It depends if they're willing to listen. Maybe they got bad habits, but a decent work ethic.
Yeah. Well, the bad habits could be they have
They
great they have a great work ethic and they were trained the wrong way or trained in a way that doesn't work
yes,
for you, but they during their training they were like, "Okay, yeah, that's great. I'm learning well. Teach me more, blah blah blah." Then they come to you, and just because they have bad habits doesn't mean they aren't willing to relearn or learn or whatever.
right. So there is a lot more. I'm like you. There's a lot more input that goes into that. And Mike said, "What's the habit? Is it weed eating backwards?" He said he can fix that. That is my point. That's my point. You know, I think here's something I want you to think about along with that. Let's see. I'm glad you guys are interested in this as I am. Flirting with a single moms might have a harder time fixing that. But in all certainty, I agree with Dan the man. Let's see. Fred says skilled position experience, warm body, labor new. And that, Fred, is exactly what I wanted to talk about. Is that exact point? If I'm looking just to put somebody on in a labor position, yeah, give me zero experience because I can teach somebody how to run a wheelbarrow, how to dig a hole, you know. But if I need a skilled position,
But the problem with that is that, okay, they might have the skill or the know how to turn the machine on and to run it, but are those bad habits interfering with the operation,
it could
right?
be.
Are they interfering with that? Are they making people unsafe? You know, like,
Yes, that's where it goes back to: is somebody retrainable? Number one, and or are they willing to hear something different and implement it? Tabitha brought up a really good point when we were talking about this before I decided to talk about it. She said it's like in her job, okay. Uh, she does what's called MDS, okay. It's uh, for a nursing home facility. They do billing for services provided at the nursing home, basically. Okay. All right. And they're going through and for you guys listening to us, I know we're not in nursing homes right now, but it's a similar situation as far as employees, and they're going through a hard time trying to find somebody for that department. And they've had two people that came to them with experience but bad work ethic. So they could do the job, but bad work ethic. All right, as far as showing up on time and getting the job done and wanting to leave early and leave during the day and all this bullshit that was going on. Okay, and then after two of those, they hired somebody that had zero experience in that field, but they were a nurse. Okay, they were an RN because that's part of it too, you know, but zero experience. And Tap's point to this was they don't have time to train in their department because it's her and one other helper. Okay. So my point to sharing that story with you all is I think it goes back to what position are we trying to fill? If we're just looking for general labor in the lawn and landscape business, probably somebody with zero experience would be better.
yeah.
Now, on the other hand, I've experienced both sides of both types of those people, where you get looking in a skilled position to find somebody that's got bad habits. And what I have learned, though, too, and this is where kind of, Daniel, I can change my answer back and forth, and feel free to critique this. But you're normally not going to change somebody,
From an attitude perspective, that's true.
you know?
Yes, and that's where it goes back to the attitude.
Will
Like
they listen?
if you're specifically talking about bad habits, that's one thing. If you're talking about a bad attitude, that's a separate.
Because
You can't change most likely someone's attitude. That's not gonna.
so
But you can, if they have a good attitude, then
so I guess the next question is, are they willing to learn if they think their way's the right way
well,
of doing it?
probably not, because if they aren't willing to be humble about like they aren't willing to learn something, then they don't have a good attitude, right? That's the like
That
that's the stopper of the bottle.
yeah.
Like it doesn't matter if they're untrained or poorly trained. If they aren't willing to learn, then it's not going to be a fit.
Yeah. And know that, I mean, the advantage of, and I guess that's a weird way of putting it, but I will put it that way for the sake of conversation. You know, the advantage of putting somebody on with some experience, even though they may have some habits that you don't particularly care for, is at least you can, and this was Tabitha's point, they'd been better off, meaning her, okay, in their department, they'd been better off continuing to look for somebody else while using somebody that understood the job and dealing with that versus having somebody with zero experience. Be kind of like taking somebody with zero experience in our profession, right? And sending them out to be an applicator
Right.
without riding with somebody first.
Yeah.
Because that is something that, we do here. Somebody just doesn't come and
Right.
walk into an applicator position. They ride with somebody for a few months. I mean,
And I think part of your business, whether you're small or medium sized or even large, of course, but if you're a small, like, don't have an employee yet and you're looking for somebody, I think it most likely the better situation would be, hey, let's hire somebody that doesn't have as much experience. We can work together. I'm not going to go put on a bunch of new jobs right away, of course, because I can't count on them to be a true second man yet, you
right,
know. But let me train them, and maybe that, and of course, all of this is like best case scenario, right? Most of the time, this might not even work out. But when you truly find somebody that you think, okay, this person might stick around decently long term, let's train this person. They don't have the experience, but maybe the following year, once they've gone through a whole season of, okay, I've taught them how to do this, I've taught them how to do that. Now they kind of know these things. So moving into next year, they're a better equipped, trained person. So now they are that true second man. Now they are well trained and they don't have bad habits. So the next time you are searching for someone, you can do this. You can flow through the process, and let's say, okay, well, now my first guy that I hired quit. So now I'm looking for that, crew lead or whatever situation you're talking about, skilled. In a best in a I don't even call it a best case scenario, a perfect world, but like in a systemic world where you're setting this system up, what you should be doing with your employees is training them continuously, right?
right.
Giving them opportunities to learn more about Furton weed and go out and do it, get your license, and then if we need you to move in that position for full time or part time when we find somebody else, or hey, if we have a skid steer, what we need to get you learning about this and how to do it, because we may need you, or you may want to move into that position when and if it becomes available. And
Yeah, don't let
like,
the training side hold
don't stop
you, the
training a
owner, back.
person.
Yeah,
Don't like you get a person in, give them the initial, whether it's, let's just assume it's that no experience type person, give them the training to step into that position when it becomes available, so you're not sitting out there looking for a superhero in a world of realistic, million to one odds of finding that for your business.
right.
create Create a system within your business that creates that type of person within your business.
Yeah, work with somebody to train them out, because I know the mindset a lot of times is, you know, especially with smaller companies, one truck operations, two truck operations, it's like, man, I don't have time to train somebody. But the reality of it is, if you, to your point, if you take the time and effort, you know, it seems hard and it seems expensive, and it is,
Yeah, it's an
but it's
investment.
still less expensive in the long run than the constant replacement.
Right. And I think what we ask ourselves too, well, why is it so hard for a lot of smaller businesses to have the time? We know that there's a lot that goes into running a business, so that's one answer. But I think the other answer is because you don't know your cost. It's the typical solution of, hey, we need to work more. So then you don't have time,
So then
right?
you,
It's okay,
yeah,
we need to work dawn to dusk to try to make up for it, quote unquote, when you're not actually doing that. So then you're just constantly working. You don't have time to do it. That's not getting solved. So then the next person comes in and they're done because they don't want to work, Saturday to Sunday, every week and all the things that go along
Go
with
along
it's
with it.
like if you just and this is what you talk about all the time, but knowing your cost is foundational to the success of everything else,
Yeah,
even the employee side of it and retention and training. Because if
correct.
you have your numbers set up, that means you're probably going to have more time to train that person.
Yeah. And that does go a long way and then bringing that up, from a cost standpoint, that's a very valid point. A lot of times we don't have time because we've got too much going on, trying to make ends meet and trying to be able to, pay our bills and that whole scenario, and then trying to pay somebody, and then you got the frustration of trying to train somebody too. So yeah, the solid foundation begins with understanding what you need to charge and know that, to your point, exactly, Daniel, because I get that question quite a bit from contractors. They're like, well, man, I'm doing pretty good, but I know when I put somebody that, they've worked with, they've trained them, now they're going to put them on their own route. I know they're not going to be as fast as I am. Well, that's okay. Somebody can have the understanding and the training of the position they're taking over. And that was something that was hard for me too, was it took me a while to understand that when I went from, one truck to two trucks with which meant my brother, okay? Um, and then, adding on as we added on, you got to learn to bid jobs differently too. When you leave the sole proprietor one truck operation level, you will learn to bid your jobs differently, just because it's not because you don't have the right person. It's not because that other person doesn't care. It's not because, they got a million things on their mind, because you got a million things on your mind and you're getting the work done. You know, it's just, generally speaking, nobody's going to work as efficiently and diligently as the owner operator is. I mean, that's just a reality of it. Now, there's outliers to that. I used to joke, a couple of the guys that are here with us, still here with us, that, hey, when they first started, that, hey, they go on about how good they are and how fast they are and all that. And I'm saying, well, I can still out trim you, you know. And that's when I was still going out some with guys when I was in that transition from admin to production, right? And I'd still go out, part of the time. It was about, hey, and what I was doing was not to go out and outdo them, to go out and let them know that, hey, I do understand what we're doing. Number one, I know how to do it, I can do it, and I know if you're doing it at a level that needs to be done at from an efficiency standpoint. And that does all go back to, like I said, Wayne, you're getting off on a tangent. We're really not, because it goes back to who we hiring. Are we hiring somebody that's willing to listen and be trainable and be educated and have a concern on doing the job right? Or are we looking for somebody that is good at their job but bad habits? And so, to your point, Daniel, some habits can be changed. Excuse me, and some can't. And that's where you have to decide as a business owner, as at what point in time in your season or business, which of those is more important to you? Taking the time and effort and expense and investment to train somebody with zero experience, where that a lot of times can be the absolute right answer, you know. But I've also experienced the frustrations of that myself, you know, trying to do that, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah, sometimes it's also dictated by who comes through the door, who's looking for a job at that point.
yeah, and I think the worst hire that we used to make, and you've seen it and you probably know what I'm going to say, is, and I don't know, I'd like to get your all's feedback on it too, you guys listening. You know, the person that walks in and says, Man, I'm gonna be the best thing since sliced bread. I can do everything. I can run any equipment you got, because that's one of the things we ask after we've talked to them a few minutes is, what type of equipment can you run? But when they walk in and say, I can run anything you got and I'm gonna be the best thing since sliced bread, that generally doesn't work out. It really just generally doesn't work out. That's somebody with a big ego that a lot of times that God, what's a kind way of saying it? That number one thinks they're better than what they are, and that kind of that goes back to, and we found that exact answer out when we did that research for Cub Cadet.
Hmm.
A few years ago when we did that research for them. When we had operators operating equipment, not knowing what they were doing. Um, and when I say not knowing what the research, what we were looking for that generally the person with the most amount of experience was the least efficient with the mower deck that they were mowing with, regardless of the size. Whether it was 36, 48, 52, 72, 61s, didn't matter because everybody was too concerned with the experience they had and showing, hey, this is how fast we can mow. So that goes back to, hey, are you training somebody on overlap? Not just speed, not go out there and run the lawnmower. There's some brands out there that say, hey, we can run 15 miles an hour, 18 miles an hour. You know, unless you're running on some type of GPS ran, which a lot of these robotic mowers are doing now, right? Where you can control overlap by the science, I guess,
Yeah.
of the whole thing. Um, then you can increase ground speed. you know. But one thing that, as far as the way I understand it is, the tip speed on a lawnmower, and I know we're just talking about mowing now, it relates to all sides of our industry, but tip speed's federally regulated. So that's why you have these manufacturers that have different types of decks with different discharge opportunities and, pitch on the deck and this to try to get a good vacuum and a good discharge so they can operate at a higher ground speed potential. So that's where it all goes back to, are you hiring somebody that's willing to learn? Or are you hiring somebody that's just says, "Hey, man, I can do it," and you just give me a truck and a trailer, and I'll go out and mow my brains out. And but just because they're mowing their brains out and working 60 hours a week doesn't mean that they're getting 60 hours of good production in. And that's where it goes back to, maybe the best person you hire is the person with zero experience. Train them efficiently, spend the ample amount of time on training so they can be a good
Yeah.
employee.
Or maybe there's a solution in the middle somewhere where it's like it doesn't matter how much experience you say you have, there's going to be a minimum of a X period of time, days or whatever, of training slash what's it called in the, like, not a probation, but you know what I'm saying? Like a period of time where it's like just because you might be able to go run a crew tomorrow, you're gonna be a crew member for a week at least, and just
Yeah.
that's what, like, maybe that's the solution is a
Maybe you implement something to where, hey, it's like we were talking about earlier, where somebody rides with somebody here for a few months
yeah,
before they're ever in a truck by themselves to go treat lawns.
right.
Hey,
So because part of, if
this
like,
is how we do it. This is where we park. This is how we pull the hose reel,
yeah,
or this is how we run a spreader. Or
because
you
looking
know,
at any other, like most other industries, other than like, okay, I'm gonna go be like a CEO or something of the business. Like most of the time, if you're going in as to a job, you're gonna have a certain period of time of like that
you know,
more training style period. You might still be doing the job, but you're in that initial. Gosh, I can't remember what the think of what the word is or what they call it, but um, where you're getting aligned with truly how they do it there,
yeah,
and you're getting aligned with their culture, you're getting aligned with their policies and procedures, you're really figuring out the business more than you are, and maybe that's how you can maybe frame it to someone with a little bit more experience as, hey, I respect your experience, and we're going to be training a little bit on that, how we do it. But what we're really training you on is our business,
Right.
so you can frame it more so it's maybe
So
seen as
like when
less
we're talking with somebody
of
with
a shot.
experience, that's what we'll say is, hey, we appreciate your experience, but we're going to show you how we do it.
Yeah.
You know, because there is more than one way to mow a lawn, more than one way to treat a lawn, but there's our procedures on how we do it. So we want you to learn our procedures. And if you've got some ideas, I've told a lot of guys this, if you've got an idea or suggestion, bring it to us. We're always willing to listen, you
Right.
know. I mean, and we'll either tell you, hey, we tried it and it didn't work, doesn't mean we're not going to try it again. But hey, if we've tried it multiple times, even though it sounds like a good idea, hey, or maybe the best thing since sliced bread that somebody comes up with, and you're like, damn, how have we not been doing this?
Yeah.
So encourage the feedback. Let somebody know that, hey, I'm not telling you we don't want your input on how we could do the job more efficiently, you know, but it kind of goes back to mowing first or trimming first as a one truck operation. And I don't want to get into that real deep right now, but I mean, quickly, got like I say, man, I like to trim first. Well, in Wayne's world, if I'm by myself or if I've got somebody going the mow by theirself, we want to mow first. And the reason we want to mow first is because when you're, it's simple, really. And this may just be my opinion, but I haven't had anybody convince us differently in 47 years why trimming first makes more sense than mowing first. Because when you trim first and you hang that trimmer up and then you get on a lawnmower, and if you've done the work, you guys will know where I'm going with this probably. But the reality is you tend to over trim, giving yourself more space than you need around a pole, around a fence, around a play set. Whereas if you mow first, then you know what's left to trim.
Yeah.
So you're theoretically should be leaving less trimming, which should increase the efficiency on your trimming time.
Right.
Okay. Now, again, maybe there's a debate on that. And you say, well, no, this is why I like to trim first. And to each their own on that. But I mean, from an efficiency standpoint, when you mow, you know what's left to trim. But if you trim before you mow, you may not be sure what it is. So you have a tendency to over trim to make sure that you've done enough. So that's that standpoint. And something else we do from a training standpoint is first pass is always a perimeter pass, Daniel. And that goes back to who are we hiring? We're hiring somebody with bad traits that just immediately starts off making their lines, or somebody that makes a perimeter pass. So if you've got a 2-person operation or 2 people in a truck or more, if you're not making a perimeter pass first, then your guys doing the trimming don't know what need to be trimmed for sure. So then even though you got 2 people working at the same time, the inefficiency is still coming from potentially from the trimming side because he's not sure what the mowing guy can get. Then you get the belly aching that says, well, he should have been able to get that with a lawnmower. Well, so now let the lawnmower guy take a perimeter pass first, then we do the weed eating. So it all goes back to training, you know. So then that's another discussion for another day. But what's the summary on this? We got 2 minutes.
I guess
Hire with zero or
well, I don't think it's a one size fits all. I really think the difference or the thing that makes the most difference is the attitude of the individual, whether they have experience or not. And then it's up to you as the business to have a system in place, training system in place in order to take that person that is willing to learn and educate them.
yes. And I do too. I believe that's the right answer. It's not a one size fits all where give me zero experience all the time or give me somebody with some experience and some bad habits, but they got a decent attitude. And maybe, hey, here's why we're going to do it this way. You know, Can you do it this way? Are you willing to do it this way? And then if they're not, that's the thing, that's the point of sitting down and talking to somebody before they say yes, they want to work with you, or no, not, or vice versa. If you want to say, well, no, that's not going to fit, man, this is why we do it that way.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think, another conversation to be had here on Profit Time is how do you figure that out in the interview process?
absolutely. So, hey, I appreciate all your all's feedback on that. I knew we'd get some great input on that. Again, it's not wrong or right. I think it goes back to how quickly do you need somebody? Do you believe that person to be trainable and or retrainable? And to Daniel's point, it's not one size fits all. Hey, you always start with experience or always start with zero. Hey, where are you at in your business, and how much time and investment do you want to make in the training side on either side of that, whether it's zero talent or some talent, with bad habits that you want to fix. So appreciate y'all's time. Be sure to check us out in the Profit Circle tonight. Look forward to seeing everybody at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you guys have a great day, and we'll see you Friday. And remember, profit, it's not a dirty word.